So GOP presidential candidate Ben Carson on one of the Sunday programs argued that lawmakers just don't understand what it's like to be in poverty. Well, I actually agree with that. Now, Carson was talking to Chris Wallace on Fox News Sunday, and he basically told him, I've experienced poverty I've experienced every economic level. Poor people have pride too. But when it comes to welfare, people don't want to be taken care of. Well, okay, so those are some decent points. He's actually right. People don't want to be taken care of. People want to work hard. People want to make a living. However, Ben Carson then goes into crazy land by saying that dependence on the government is what's holding people back, not their inability to make a fair wage. He says, let's see, hold on here. He basically talked about his mother's independence and work ethic as the reason that he is where he is today, and says that if she had welfare or anything like that, that would have held her back in that whole cycle of government dependence. And I think on that issue, he's fundamentally wrong, and he continues to parrot the same failed policy positions that actually keep people down, where he's not really expressing the real policy concerns and prescriptions that would help people out of poverty.
Well, and I think that's why we were both drawn to this story, because when you read the way it was set up, like the way you set it up, the first couple things he said, you're like, oh, okay, maybe this is a breath of fresh air, right? Then you read the rest of it and you're like, and we're back. Darn it. Like, you're just like, oh, I got my hopes up. But he's like, and the problem is, because he has a point. And, I like what he said too at first, where he's just like, I know what it's like to be in poverty. A lot of people don't have that point of reference, especially in politics. That's right on. And then it's like, people don't want to be dependent. Okay, that's right on.
Sure.
But then of course, back to reality. This is just another GOP parrot point. Government dependence is holding people back. It's like, oh, come on, man. Really? You got our hopes up for a second that there was going to be a breath of rationality, and, got our hopes up too soon. Because, another thing that I think is connected in all this, and we've talked about this a lot on the show, the middle class is going away. I mean, it is going away. I think that our parents' generation is pretty much the tail end of it. The middle class in general is going away. So now, arguably more so than ever before, you have this really big disconnect between people in power and the working class, which is pretty much all poor people at this point. I mean, the middle class is completely going away. So now more than ever, there needs to be some type of transparency and some type of point of relation. So it's all the more upsetting where somebody that does have a background, that does have an experience, is coming at it from this perspective of, the dependence on the government, any type of social safety net, that's the problem. That's the demon we should be pointing at. Because then people are going to look at this emotional plea that he made, like they're going to lean on his pathos, and they're going to think, well, maybe he's right. Maybe we shouldn't have any type of social safety net, which of course is not the way that a democracy is going to work. And it's not statistically accurate either. Most of the people on welfare are working jobs. Most people are working more than one, and there needs to be some type of social safety net because of the wage inequality that we've created. It was really disappointing to see that headline, see the first couple things he said, and then see how he tied it together. It was like the hopes got up and then really set in.
Well, and here's the idea. Like, here's what they've been talking about, and this, not only Ben Carson, but Paul Ryan has been talking about the idea of the poverty trap. Now, I actually think that is a thing, right? It definitely is a thing when you look at it. And basically it means, where you're getting government benefits and you get to a certain point of income and the benefits go completely away. Mm-hmm. And it leaves you even further behind. So that when you look at that and you run the numbers, you do the math, basically it points out that, without the government benefits, I'm not going to have enough to survive. Even if I take a slightly better paying job, which is what I'd really like to do, so I guess I'm going to ignore that job and stay in the benefits. That is the poverty trap. Now, this goes back to their policy prescriptions for this that are unworkable. They just say, well, since there's that poverty trap in place, let's just, and the benefits are, make more, you're able to survive on benefits better than if you get this job. Let's take away the benefits. No, that's not the right approach at all.
Right.
And that's their approach. That's Paul Ryan's approach. Well, let's just cut it then. So then they'll be forced to get that lower paying job, and then they'll be behind. The whole point is to get people ahead. And to make.
Well,
I'm sorry, man.
Go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
The whole point is to make people get ahead to where they don't have to have those programs at all. I'm not saying that those programs should disappear completely, but they are. Paul Ryan is. Ben Carson is.
Right. And I think the reason they're saying that, and why, I think that what you're saying, you're looking at it the right way. Yep. Now, I think the Ben Carsons, and especially the Paul Ryans, they want those programs to go away. That's their agenda. Their agenda is not, like you're saying, like the hope is to get people ahead. Not to them. They don't care if people get ahead or not. They don't care. They want to get rid of these programs. That's their agenda. They wake up and their agenda is, how can we get rid of any social safety net for the people in the country we live in? Because I read an Ayn Rand novel and never got over it. That's what they are like when they wake up in the morning. It's like, how can we get rid of this? And then they're looking for anything to grasp at. So yeah, sure, poverty trap's a real thing. But to them, they use that as a talking point. They use that as something to further an agenda instead of seeing it as a problem that we should work through to try to make a system even better.
And one question you got to ask is why are they working so hard at getting rid of these, anti-poverty programs? It's not because they don't work. There's evidence that shows that it does work. That what is it? Every dollar spent in SNAP benefits returns $1.82 of economic activity, somewhere around there, right? These programs work, and these programs do lift people out of poverty. They're not really robust enough, and given the fact that we still have a minimum wage federally that's $7.25, which no person can live on without any sort of government assistance, you run into that poverty trap. But when it comes to the idea of why they want to cut these, it's so that they can free up money, federal money, to give to corporations and to give to already wealthy people in the form of tax cuts.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they say about smaller government, cutting government, and then they try to say, we're just trying to help these poor people not be victims anymore. They're victims of government dependency because we give them just barely enough to survive and then tell them, what to shop for, what to eat, how to eat. Because remember, places like Wisconsin and Kansas, they're trying to ban certain food items from even being purchased by anti-poverty programs such as the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, food stamps, whatever you want to call it. They're saying, well, you can't buy steak, you can't buy seafood, you can't buy fish, which is seafood. You can't, they're telling you how to do that. They're trying to micromanage your life. And then they're saying, well, you're a victim because we're giving you this money. You're not a victim. Nobody's saying that they're victims. The thing is that if you actually give people a higher wage, which actually surprisingly Ben Carson says, well, maybe we should raise minimum wage too. He came out in the same interview on Fox News Sunday and said something about that along that line. So that's good. That's a positive step. Maybe we should look at the minimum wage. Not maybe we should. We have to.
Oh, we have to.
Because that's the only way. If you really want to cut down the rolls of people on welfare, the first thing you do is make sure that people can earn enough money working so they can get out of that poverty trap.
Right. I mean, in a country like this, in an industrialized nation, there is no reason why anybody that works 40 hours a week at an honest job, no matter what that job is, shouldn't make enough money to survive. They don't need to be getting rich. I mean, I get it. An entry-level job or like, a menial job, whatever. You're not going to be getting rich. That's fine. But you should be making enough to survive. And in other countries, that's the case.
Yep.
But here, it's not, because we have this gross wage inequality that's 475 times to 1. And it has reached a point of crisis, I would say. And that's why when it comes to the minimum wage discussion, I've actually been more cautious than I would like to be, because, the one thing that struck me, I was worried that going 15 federally might have been too fast too soon. And my biggest fear, and it still is, even though I don't like the fact that I feel like I have to look at it this way, I think that if we were to go too quick too soon, the right's gonna take that and they're gonna run with it and they're gonna drill it, and the Paul Ryans of the world are gonna use that as a way to go after the minimum wage as a whole. And so my fear would be, don't try to go too fast, or we're going to miss the opportunity altogether, and then we're going to be in a bigger mess than we're already in, which I don't think this country could afford for it to get much worse when it comes to wage inequality. I mean, this is the worst it's ever been.
Well, there was a time where it was once worse, back in the 20s.
Well,
and if you can remember what happened at that time, we may be heading for another one. So
yeah. Okay. So yeah, there was a time where it was worse, but
so we have a historical perspective and a historical, we can look back and see what happened as a result. And it's not just that, the only factor, of course, but that's one of the main results, one of the big factors of why we had an economic crash in the 20s anyway. Mm-hmm. There was just so much wage inequality. And then after that, we got the New Deal, and for a while, we had some of the best wage equality. We had good wages. We had a lot of a burgeoning middle class because of all these progressive policies put into place. And unfortunately, since the 80s, we've seen the Reaganites and the Ayn Randians really try to do a concerted effort to peel that back.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's been, and it's yeah, I mean, like I said, I think we've really hit a crisis with this. And if we don't start addressing the minimum wage and start getting those policies, the wheels turning on that, it's going to get worse. And yeah, we might be heading for another complete crash.
Mm.